flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Everybody is present except for Amy. Proof of public notice.
The agenda was shared with the Kiwani or the Algoma Public Library, put on our district website, and posted at both of these buildings.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Shannon, seconded by Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. I would like a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Chrissy, seconded by Jeremy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Yep.
We're going to acknowledge the donations. So we would like to thank the Algoma Lions Club for their support of the district's weekend backpack food program. They donated $500. So we would like to recognize that. Thank you very much. Board recognition. So we're going to recognize the Algoma High School esports teams. We got some certificates here to hand out for the ones that are here. I'll read off the names here. We got Matthew Bennett, Declan Pulowski, Dakota Durst, Zachary Perry, Griffin Rush, Dakota Smith, Leo Vera Becciolani, Andrew Wees, Layden Foster, Davin Lomax, Mr. Jesse Durst. You're here.
Take a picture.
Come on out.
Yeah.
Take a picture.
And Mr. Chris Robinson. Thank you. So if you guys could explain a little bit, maybe what this group does.
Yeah, so it was something that we wanted to get started for a while. I think about 2 years ago we started having some pretty serious conversations about it, looking into how we can get into a league somewhere to actually be able to compete and then go from there, see what the interest is. We had quite a few kids interested, but we just had to find enough interest in a similar game where they could play together, be a team, compete together and all that. There's a lot of different games available, so different seasons. There's a spring season, winter season, spring season. Each season has different games. So there might be a game in the fall season that doesn't, that we might not have as many kids interested in, but then like, for example, this last spring, we had about 7 or 8 students interested in playing a game called Valor. So just like we would with anything, we kind of had everyone come in, we had them play a little bit, see who we think would be, what would be considered a varsity team. We made a varsity team just like you would with any other sport. Had 6 people on that team, and then we had enough interest in the Mario Kart team as well. So we had 4 players for Mario Kart as well. And each game has its own kind of way of doing its competitions. It's typically about 1 match a week against another school in Wisconsin. I know the very first preseason match that the Valorant team faced was one of the biggest schools in Wisconsin, which was Wausau West. So they got a chance to not only make some connections with that other team, so they were actually, after that preseason match, they had reached out and played a couple other matches in their own time with this team. So they kind of scrimmaged each other, and so on that day they'll play, following the rules of the competition for that specific game, because each game's different. And then just like anything else, the scores and records are tracked, and then there comes playoff season. In the playoffs, they do the top 8 teams from each basically group or division, and the Mario Kart team was the top 6 team in the division they were in, and the Valorant team was the 2 in theirs. So that seeded Valorant and going into the playoffs, seeded them at the 2nd seed overall, and then our Mario Kart team was, I think, 10th overall with the different groups. And Mario Kart didn't make it through the first couple rounds, but Valorant did, and they actually went on in May, and we competed at state. We went down to Milwaukee. They had news crews there. They had people streaming and like announcing the games online. It felt like it was watching behind the scenes, real time, what you see for like these big tournaments that colleges give scholarships out for. So it was really cool to see them just throughout the seasons make connections with people they normally wouldn't, just like you would see on a regular team. I've watched Dakota Durst be the glue for the team. He'd be someone that can, you know, I watched Jesse, saw him tutoring someone to make sure their grades were up so that they could compete. Dakota Smith, when I saw him play live, he was basically like a conductor of an orchestra. He was the one that was the leader telling them, okay, let's do this, I want you here, you do this, you do this, you do that. And the communication is just like you would see in any other sport, so it was really fun to watch and different than what I'm used to in volleyball. There's usually that one leader, and I can see that in person, how it kind of plays out. But for esports, it was an interesting experience, and it was really cool to see them kind of gain the skills socially that you would get in the sport, but in something a little different than esports. So it was a very interesting, fun time.
How'd they do at state?
They got 2nd runner-up, so they were state runner-up. So they played a team that had won state 3 times in a row, and they were all seniors, and they had played together for like 7 years. So that was a tough one to beat for them, but it was pretty fun because at one point Dakota Smith had a really good play in the. Oh, hello. Speaking of which, you guys can just. Oh, that's okay. You can just come sit down. But it was pretty cool because that team was very good, and Dakota Smith had a really strong, good play, and the announcers, we were watching back afterwards for the casters of the game, and they were like, that was one of the best plays I've ever seen in this game, that was amazing, and they were talking him up, and he was so happy and excited when he heard it, and it was a really fun time.
The variant, you said?
Valorant.
Valorant. What's that game about?
It's kind of, one team has to try to defend an area, the other team has to try to attack it, and the success is based on whether or not you successfully defend or get the plant off, is what they call it. And it was a lot of learning for me because esports coaches is not like you're really experienced in all these different games. I'm just trying to hold the team together and make sure they can, you know, communicate, play together, get things organized and stuff like that. So I learned a lot just listening to him say what they're going to be doing and why and all that kind of stuff. And they had a really good time doing it.
Are these all online, or do you have to travel?
Ideally, we would like to play close teams in person. It'd be really cool to have the ability to have enough computers to where we could host like Gibraltar was in Mario Kart. So it'd be really cool to have a conference team come to our school and say, hey, let's play this in person. You know, if you guys can afford the driving or whatever it might be, or the fuel, whatever it could be to get there, that would be really cool to be able to do. Until state, it is not in person, it's all online. So they won, for example, Valorant won their first 2 playoff matches that put them in the top 4 for state, and then state was just that semifinals on. And that's where they were in person at Wisconsin Lutheran College. Yeah.
So when you guys do that, do you guys just all obviously are all in the same room playing together, or how does that all?
Yeah, it was, I think, a really cool experience. I think they both enjoyed it a lot, right? Being in person, because you could see the other team playing across from you. You saw the backs of all their computers, and then they had their computers right here all lined up, and you could see the reactions after, you know, one person would get the other, and the other team would get upset or just get a little annoyed, and then they're all excited. It was fun. It was cool to be in person.
So right now, are the athletes, are they using their own computers?
Um,
Or does the school
The school does have an esports room where they are also using it for graphic arts as well. And chat.
That's the other cool thing about this is they're really pushing this going and got grants and financing. These kids go to the actually playing it. So I ordered all the parts from them and just put them all together. So I love learning and enjoying that part of it.
Are you sanctioned by anybody, like WIA is for like physical sports, is there like a governing body?
There's different leagues. The one that we were in was Wisconsin, Wishia, is that how you say it? Wishia, Wisconsin High School Esports Association. So that is, unlike the WIA, where it's every high school's in the same one, different high schools that are set up to participate are encouraged, and they're supposed to be playing all together at the school. You're not supposed to play matches at home like, oh, Dakota's on his computer, he's on his computer, and you're supposed to all be in one building. So the schools that do have that all set up and able to compete, they are the ones that are signing up for these two. I think there's two different meetings, Plavius and the Wissia.
So PlayBS is more like a national league.
UWGB has a beautiful room, but I never knew what it was used for. There's like 50 computers and these fancy chairs, and it's the esports lounge, but I was like, I don't know what they do in there. So, thank you for explaining it.
Yeah, and these colleges are handing out scholarships for these things too, because there is in some cases, for some schools, a bigger following in the esports scene than there is for their specific other sports that they have. So they're offering scholarships to players to come play a game, depending on the game. I'm sure it's just like NCAA where, they can't have every game. They probably can only do a certain amount of games or something like that. I'm not sure how it all works for the college scene, but they do give out scholarships for esports players. So just another opportunity that they have, if they grow enough into that game and play well enough and get seen.
Anything else? We have a couple more certificates for you.
Thank you guys.
Jesse's gonna take some pictures. Gavin Lomax. Dakota Smith.
Are you guys underclassmen? Are you gonna do it again next year?
I'm a junior, I'm going into my senior year.
They feel pretty confident that they can win state next year. Just that other team will be out of their way. Do you want to share anything with what you like about it?
Meeting new people. What was that first thing you put in?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a school probably 150 miles from us.
Yeah, they had one specific player I grew pretty close to, so it was nice hanging out with them.
That's cool.
Very cool. Congratulations.
Great job. Thank you for starting. Was it first year? Yeah, first year. So we're hoping to keep it going. We're hoping the success will help get some more interest, So it was really cool to see. And it was actually really fun because on our break, was it usual? Dave Usual was one of the ones that was talking to you guys on that break. We had a break and the kids were saying, there was people calling them after they knew they were done with their match, like, oh, that was so fun to watch, that was really cool, and, talking them up, like, oh, that one play you had was really awesome, and so it'd be nice to get a little bit more following from people around here too, just so that way they get a little more support, because the team we played had, I would say all their parents and some family were there, so like they would make a play and there'd just be clapping and cheering, and fortunately it was just me behind them, so we didn't really have anyone travel with us, but it was still a fun experience, and like I said, it was just really cool to watch them just grow and play together.
Do you have uniforms? Like you wear like a
We-
shirt or?
We were gonna get them, but it was kind of like we threw this all together pretty quickly this spring, and we weren't sure if they would even be done by the time we would compete, if we were gonna be in person yet or not, so I know that after being there, every other team had them, and they're like, we need to get uniforms next year. So we look a little more put together, but we did not this year, but it was something we had talked about, but we just didn't have the timeline to get it done prior to the season.
I think a fundraiser apparel set too, some
Yes.
of the Wolves esports shirts.
Yeah. Yeah,
So is it always the same 2 games, or is there like a list of games?
there is a list. Jesse might help me with this, but there's Overwatch, Super Smash Brothers, which is on Nintendo, Mario Kart, Valorant, Marvel Rivals, Fortnite. Did I miss one? Oh, Rocket League. So there's 8 different games throughout from fall to spring, and then each season has different games that this particular league has.
How do you guys balance it? I know you're both involved in other sports, track, volleyball, everything. How are you guys
Luckily
balancing
for-
something that has a season all year round?
Luckily for the spring season, volleyball's not part of that, so I was able to kind of take over, and he's in the track one. But now coming fall, he's gonna, if we have enough interest to garner a team for either of the games that are available, he can take that one over while I'm in volleyball, and then we'll both probably tackle winter together. So we're gonna try to make it work. It was a really awesome experience for them.
So the games you mentioned are all on gaming systems. Do the students have to have their own gaming system that's compatible with a certain version, or?
I would say technically no, but if they want to practice more, and typically they will want to, you guys played a lot outside of school, didn't you, as well, together? So they were playing a lot outside, but for example, Griffin didn't have as good of internet capabilities, so he was trying to spend as much time here where he could get better while he had a better system to play on. So it doesn't require their own systems because we provided the computers to play. I think all but 2 of the games are on computer.
Okay.
Just the Nintendo Switch games, so Mario Kart and Smash Brothers are the only 2 that require a console system.
Okay.
Everything else is available on the computer, and I would say most teams would prefer to play on the computer.
Okay.
So,
They should add Rock Band.
yeah.
That'd be fun.
Get John Massey on that one. Yeah.
All right, so I would like to thank you 2 guys, you 2 coaches, for getting kids involved in, I mean, there's a lot of kids that maybe don't want to play sports or whatever, and I think it's awesome that we get kids involved in other things. So they're active, whatever that might be, so, thank you.
Thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
coming in.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
Okay, Shelley, anybody signed up for public comment?
There is not.
All right, with 0, that means we'll move on to administration.
What about
Oh,
your?
oh yeah, sorry, I skipped right
your
past it.
report?
We're gonna do the board CISA 7 report.
I
Sorry,
don't-
Chrissy.
I don't have a report this month, so you're off the hook. All good.
We're good. Then we need board president report or announcements, and Shannon is gonna read that from Amy.
Dear students, families, staff, and community members, the final bell has rung and summer has begun. The Board of Education would like to offer our deepest gratitude to every person who helped make this school year a success. To our students, you are the reason we are here. Your curiosity, creativity, and spirit fill our halls with energy and purpose every single day. Whether you overcame a personal challenge, discovered a new passion, or simply showed up and gave your best, you made us proud. This summer rest, explore, and dream big. To our families and communities, great schools are built by great communities. Your trust and partnership make it possible for our district to thrive. Thank you for sending us your children each morning and for walking alongside us through every milestone, big and small. To our staff, teachers, paraprofessionals, support staff, bus drivers, custodians, food service workers, and everyone who keeps our schools running, thank you. What you do every day goes far beyond a job description. You show up for our students with patience, passion, and an open heart. Please take this summer to recharge. You have earned it. To our administration, to our district leadership and administrative teams, thank you for your tireless commitment to excellence and the well-being of every student and staff member in our care. Your guidance and thoughtful decision-making carry this district forward. On behalf of the school board, Amy, Lonnie, Chrissy, Chris, Jeremy, Shannon, and Mike, we wish every student, family, and staff member a joyful, restful, and safe summer. We look forward to welcoming everyone back in the fall.
Okay, now, any public comments on administration reports?
All right, good evening, everyone. Our key takeaways for tonight are our monthly finance report. We'll cover some budget amendments for closing out this year's budget. We have our preliminary budget for next school year that will need to be adopted. And then I will finish with some meal prices recommendations for the 26-27 school year. Turn it over to Amber for the monthly summary report.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of breeze through this pretty quickly here, because we're gonna talk a little more in depth when we get to the budget amendment, but if you look up here, you can see the general fund revenue and expenditure numbers are kind of low, and special ed revenue is low because we haven't done that final year-end transfer that makes up the vast majority of that fund's revenue, and our expenses are a little bit low in the special ed fund too, which is great news. Food service revenues were low and the expenses are kind of high, so that's what we're going to talk about coming up. And then our community services fund did really well. We got about 90% of our revenues as of the end of May and only 77% expenditure. So all the supply orders were in and finalized and placed, and in June we'll be making those year-end entries to close out the books. Other funds, Fund 39 again is completely done. We got all those debt payments made for the year. Fund 46, long-term capital, the revenues are low because we did not process the planned transfer in the budget, mainly due to the revenues in the general fund being lower than expected. And then because of that, we also did not do the tennis court work that was originally planned for in that 10-year capital improvement plan that we adopted 2 years ago now. Not only because the revenues are low this year, but we anticipate that we aren't going to have the money coming in like we had thought for the next several years. So. And then moving on to our referendum finance update. We ended the month of May with just under $3 million, so we're starting to spend those down again. Bayland started work back up here in June, so I expect these numbers to start coming down a little bit more quickly. We did do some pretty major purchases in May. ATC commercial warewashing. We bought a new commercial dishwasher for over at Pops. The one that was there finally died, and we need a commercial one there to do the sanitizing cycles. Automated comfort control finished their work down at the elementary to get the controls down there online with what we did up here. Fox Brothers Construction brought in some sand to finish off around the track, the work that was done out there. We finished getting some of the music equipment for the new choir and music space. Kinnard Interiors did some floor work for us. Plan Beginning is doing some overall R2 planning for us. And then Warehouse Restaurant Equipment Incorporated. This is a purchase for the cafeteria or the lunchroom. Back in the kitchen, our hot and cold food wells started to fail this year. We had one set, there's 2 sets on each side of the counter. One set has not worked in years. They had taken parts off of it to repair the other one. So all the a la carte bars, the granola bars and stuff were sitting on top of it. They haven't been using. The other one started to fail last year. We thought we could get it fixed and keep it going. And we started boiling food partway through the year. So they can't keep them steady anymore, they need to be replaced. So we've got 2 new hot and cold food wells coming in for both sides of the counter, and then they're also bringing in a new cooler. We've been renting a little mini cooler from Pepsi with the cold drinks in, so. Our maintenance crew is doing a good portion of the work to try and keep the costs down, and we're hoping that'll be all up and running before school starts this fall. And then we did reimburse the general fund for referendum expenses paid to the general checking. So this is just a journal entry to code any of those referendum expenses that we needed to get paid right away, and paid them out of our general fund, and now we're reimbursing the general fund, so. That is all I have for referendum. So budget amendments. This is the budget amendment for the current fiscal year 25-26. We are reducing the expenses that we're going to be spending in funds 10, 27, 46, and 50. You'll see 46 and 49 are listed up there together because of the way we adopt budgets. All the 40 funds are adopted together. We have 2 of them, non-referendum capital and referendum capital. The non-referendum capital is the one we are actually changing here. So general fund revenue estimates decreased by a little over $100,000. Our open enrollment is less than we had budgeted for. Our achievement gap reduction aid was approximately $72,000 less than what we had planned for. This money is paid to us based on our low and moderate income student body, and it is a pot of money that is shared statewide, and it's a fixed pot of money. So our low and moderate income ratio actually improved, and so we got a little bit less, quite a bit less than we were anticipating because of that. Our interest earnings are also less than we had anticipated. This is due to not having as much revenue coming in, and then the rates did decrease throughout the year. Our expenditures, luckily, have also decreased. We are utilizing the restricted portion of our fund balance to cover common school funds and school-based mental health expenditures. And if not fully utilizing the remaining funds, would have been placed back into the restricted portion, or if they're not fully utilized. And then we had some forfeited health reimbursement account retirement benefits that were not going to be paid out to employees. So this is money that the district gives to employees that come to the district. The first 5 years that they're here, we give them $3,000 per year, so $15 grand total. After 20 years of working for the district, if they retire, they get whatever's in that account plus interest to buy health insurance or pay for the health insurance payments. And this is done mainly because most teachers don't work until their Medicare age, and so they do need to cover that gap between when their employment ends and when they're eligible for Medicare. If they leave before they meet that 20-year mark, that money is forfeited, it comes back to us, and we can use it to pay the next year's premiums that we have to put in. So we had a little over $30,000 that was forfeited, which helped reduce our expense for the year, so we didn't have to pay it in. Some other items to note for Fund 10, we had a vacant middle school, high school Spanish teacher position. It went unfilled for the vast majority of the year. I think we only had a teacher for like the first month or so, maybe not even quite that much. We did find a homeschool Spanish academy virtual option that was utilized to help fill that gap. And the difference between what we paid for that academy and what we would have paid for a full-time teacher plus benefits resulted in a reduction to budget. We did have some increased expenses for natural gas. This is the first full year where we've had to pay in several years because we had a huge credit, but that company sold out and had to get the credit off their books. So we are now, they gave us our credit back and we have to now pay it out to them each year. Our telephone bills also decreased this year by almost $12,000, and that is due in large part thanks to Jesse Durst's work. He switched us over from the old landline systems to VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol. Did I get that right? Okay. And that saved us quite a bit of money on our phone bills, so it was a great switch for us. And it was a lot of work on Jesse's part, so so I thank them very much for that. Our open enrollment expenses were higher than we anticipated, and we all but eliminated our transfer to Fund 46. So we originally thought we were gonna put about $27,000 into Fund 46 for future capital. I reduced it to $1,000 as a placeholder. ABA is going to have some money going over there that we'll know within the next month or two what that dollar amount is. We were kind of thinking maybe if we get lucky, we might be able to move a little bit money from Fund 10, but looking ahead to next year's budget, I think we're better off sitting on that money to help cover next year's deficit that we're looking at. And then we also got some funding from the state for the Act 20 expenses to help offset the purchase of the CTLA curriculum. If you remember, we purchased edition 3. That was not originally approved. It has now been approved and we've gotten our reimbursement from the state. So that was quite the nice unexpected surprise. In our special education fund, we are decreasing this budget by a little over $40,000. The high cost special education aid was a little less than we originally anticipated by about $9,000. Our Medicaid reimbursements were down this year, and we don't know what the final number is going to be because we haven't received all those payments, but I'm estimating maybe about $45,000 less than we projected. Special education categorical aid, we were very lucky. We originally budgeted 38%. Remember, the state was saying, no, 42%, 42. We put 38 into the budget. It came out at 38.3886%. So that gave us, it gave us an extra little over $5,000 into our revenues. As a result, we should also see an additional $5,800 from the transited aid from CISA. So when we pay for services to CISA for special education, they get reimbursed from the state under that same categorical aid formula. They are then required to transit that aid over to us because we paid them. So the expenses in the special education fund were down in the following areas. Our contractor payments for therapies like physical therapy, occupational therapy, and we did have a speech language pathologist contractor this year because we didn't have a teacher for that position. We had one, normally we have two. Our paraprofessionals, we also had lower expenses. There were 2 less days of school that we were in session. We had 4 days in total that we did not have school. We only had to make up 2. So that helped reduce those costs. And then same thing with substitutes. We didn't have as many substitutes as we thought. And the van drivers did really good keeping their time to a minimum this year. So that helped reduce expenses for that fund. So Fund 46, the non-referendum capital, we decreased our expenses by $397,907.50. $400,000 of that was originally planned for the tennis courts, so we eliminated that, and we purchased that new bus, which actually cost us $2,092.50 more than we had in the budget, so that's why the odd number. Fund 50, we reduced our expenditures by just over $6,000. I wish we could have done a little bit more. We might still, as we're closing out the books and paying those final bills. But our revenues have been reduced by about $68,000. That means we had to use our fund balance reserves to cover the expenses for the year. The vast majority of our expenses is food costs. The food costs are just like everyone's seeing in the grocery stores, we're seeing it here at school too. So our meal counts were a little lower than we anticipated for both students and adults, which is part of the reduction to the revenues. And because we had a lower meal count for students, it resulted in a lower USDA reimbursement compared to what we had budgeted. So we're going to try and dial that back next year. We'll talk about that in a couple slides. So the final numbers are being calculated for food service and journal entries are being posted. Allison started making a good portion of those entries last week, and we're hoping to have them all finished this week. There might be a couple tweaking entries that the auditors have us make, but we do know for sure we are using fund balance reserves for 150 this year. There's no way around that.
Amber, the USDA reimbursements.
Yep.
How does that work? Is that like a dollar for a dollar type thing, or they just cover like, $3 per kid or
It's
something?
a set dollar amount for full price kids, so those kiddos who don't qualify for any reduction in what they pay, we get the dollar something per meal. And then the free and reduced, or the reduced kids, we get another, it's quite a bit more, but it doesn't quite make up the full price we charge the full price kids. And then the free kids, we get even more because they don't pay anything. So USDA does tell us for our reduced price meals, we can only charge them 40 cents. They set that amount and we're not allowed to change that. So really the only control we have over what we charge the students for meals is for the full paid students and then our adult that get meals. The good news, our Fund 10 is in balance. So while we are taking money out of balance reserves for Fund 10, it is restricted fund balance that has to be used for specific items. The common school funds must be used for items in our library, and the state has a whole list on their website that says yes or no, we can spend it on this item. So when we're looking at, can we buy the barcodes that we need to do our books, that is not an allowable expense, but books, newspapers, periodicals, they bought a new 3D printer for the library that the classrooms can check out to use. That was an allowable expense. And then the other restricted fund balance that we're using is school-based mental health funds. This is money that is going to go away. This year it was like 35,000 that we got. Next year we're gonna get 25% of that. So it's stepping down, and then after that, I don't expect us to get any more than that. This amount is being used for our school social worker and mental health contractors providing group services. So it is very limited on using we can't use it for one-on-one services except in certain circumstances, and they are very limited amount. We chose not to use it, so we are using it for school social worker and the mental health contractors. So then that takes me to our year-end transfers. We have 2 year-end transfers that have to be made. One is to the special education fund. That one has to equal out so that the fund balance of the special education fund is at 0 for the year. So you don't get a choice in that. And then we are also required to transfer unused allocated revenues from the Algoma Venture Academy Charter School into the Capital Funds Project Fund. And it is reserved for their future use per the charter school contract. They did give us their request to transfer the funds this year, so we will be making that. We'll know those actual dollar amounts once the books are closed out and we have all expenses posted for the year. And then in July or August, I'm hoping July, but just in case something goes wrong, it might be August, but we'll get you those actual dollar amounts. And like I said earlier, it is very unlikely we will transfer general fund money into the capital projects fund, but if we did, it would require action by the school board, and the transfer must be completed at the beginning of July, which is why I left that $1,000 placeholder in there for both ABAs and our portion. So again, final transfers amounts will be reported to you at a future meeting. Deep breath. That's for this year. Any questions?
Are we gonna see that $12,000 savings in the phone thing from here on out? Is that
Yes,
basically?
yes,
I mean,
that will be ongoing, yeah. And that, I'm pretty sure I've already got that calculated into preliminary budget for next year. I'm not 100% positive on that, but I'm pretty sure. Any other questions? Okay, moving right along. Preliminary budget for next year, 26-27. I'm going to draw your attention to those 2 ugly red arrows up there. I hate this. I absolutely hate this. 20+ years of putting government budgets together, and this is the very first time I am going to be bringing a unbalanced budget forward, and I don't like it. So the good news is this is a preliminary budget. These numbers are preliminary. We're hoping they'll change. We'll get some more info come fall from the state. And maybe we can close that gap between the revenues and the expenditures. Right now, we're looking at about $700,000 gap for the general fund. So we have to either make cuts or use fund balance reserves to close that gap. And then for food service, we're, well, not quite $100,000 gap. So those are the two main ones. The only thing I can guarantee you about this budget is it will change by the time we get to passing the original budget in October. We do have to pass this budget though, because our current budget ends June 30th, and starting July 1st, we need to have something to operate under. So we still have the admin team that gets paid throughout the summer, along with our facilities crew, and we have to keep paying utility bills. So we put this in place, just like every other school district in the state, just to keep operating until we get those final budgets done in October. So this budget is put together kind of using the current trends with no changes to either revenue or expenditure. If we continue down the path that we are currently on, we've kind of talked about this a little bit in the past, but if we continue on, if nothing changes at the state, if we don't make any cuts here, we are going to be looking at an operation of referendum way sooner than later. So we're gonna be doing some work with the admin team probably this fall based on the information we get from the state, and then next summer, there'll be a new state budget that's passed. Hopefully that will have some relief for schools built into it, and we can push it off down the road a little bit further. But we will be having some pretty heavy conversations in the next year or two, trying to figure out how to correct the course of action. And we are not alone in this. In fact, we have pushed this boat down the river a lot farther than most school districts in the state. So be proud of yourselves for the work that you've done in the past to keep us floating as long as possible. That is no small feat.
And I would just mention too, Amber, that we do have a very healthy fund balance.
We do.
For our general fund, that will help offset the additional expenditures that we're gonna see for next year. So that is not a long-term solution to keep going down this road. I think we are one of maybe 2 or 3 school districts, I think, in the CISA 7 region that has not gone for an operational referendum. So again, something very proud of that we can report out to the community, but we can only stretch it so far. So.
With the fund balance, I know we talked about this before, we figure with the trends, 2 to 3 years before we reach that limit.
Yep.
And what's the limit again, like 30%?
So we're, at the end of next year, I'm thinking we're gonna be at 35%, which is where we should be. According to our policies that the school board has adopted, I believe 15 or 25 is the lowest it should be. So we've got another year before we start being non-compliant with school board policies. So the 27-28 budget is gonna be really telling, and then that'll kind of give us our marching orders of when we need to have that discussion of operational referendum. So it is no longer if, it is when. Unless by some year you guys have an in with the state legislature, you get to correct it. There's always hope, right? I know it's dire, I know it doesn't look good, it doesn't feel good, but it is what it is, and we'll make our best faith efforts. We've already started making some of those changes by changing our phone system and looking at different ways we can still provide the same services we are to our students and families without cutting those services.
Also
we'll
mention
continue to
too,
look at that.
the failed legislation that recently did not successfully pass about special ed funding increasement. We would have saw over $50,000 this year yet that would have gone for special ed, that would have reduced that cost from the general fund transfer. 151, 154 next year additional we would have saw. So you're looking at over $200,000 that we can no longer count on.
All I have.
Okay, any other questions for Amber? We do have these as new business items to, later on in the agenda as well. But I will talk a little bit about meal prices. We brought this up to the finance committee at our last meeting. So, we are recommending for 26, 27 to look at our meal costs. That is because the revenues for food service are $150, as Amber shared, was about over $68,000 less than expected. That's because of the USDA reimbursements were less than anticipated because of lower sales. Food prices have just gone up. There's no other way about it. So, what we're buying to feed our kids and our staff, comes at additional costs that we have to absorb into our budget. So, expenditures for food service were down $6,669. So we made some cuts. However, that still left a deficit of $61,872 that we needed to take from our fund balance. Luckily, we had a pretty healthy fund balance in 50, which is about 194,000. So after you take off that 61,000, you're looking at a fund balance of about 162. It'll go down to about 162,000. So with that, we are recommending for next year, looking at our meal costs. So breakfast, again, will remain free for all students. Whether you qualify for free, reduced meal status, all students will still continue to receive free breakfast at both schools. What we are recommending for lunch is a 10-cent increase. So if you're in grades 4K through 6, your meal price would go up to $2.70. If you're in the middle school or high school, your cost of meals would go up to $3.10. And for our adults, it would go up to $4.80. The reduced meal rates need to stay same at 40 cents. That's controlled by the federal. And then we would keep the carton of milk at 50 cents as well. So that would stay the same. We are not alone in increasing meal costs. I think every district around us is doing the same. It varies from 10 cents all the way up to, I think, 20 cents I've seen. So we are on the low side. This will revenue or generate about $2,700 additional revenue in a school year for us. So we're not talking a large amount, but every little bit is going to count or help. This is probably going to be something that we'll have to look at annually, what our meal costs are. So we may have to come back with the following year and look at increasing it again. But we didn't want to do a substantial increase this year to, families are struggling as well. So 10 cents is a pretty good starting point, we felt like.
Do most districts have free breakfast? Or are we kind of the only ones, or?
It depends on if you qualify. So as a district, we qualify for severe breakfast needs, so we get a little bit more reimbursement from USD for providing that. I don't think it quite covers the actual cost, but it's more than what we were to charge.
I was just gonna ask, does that offset the cost that we're paying?
It doesn't offset the cost, but it does give us a little bit more than you would otherwise see. So what they have found in the districts that do not provide free breakfast, they don't have as many kids not eating breakfast, which means your reimbursement rates are lower yet. So, a lot of these food products that we have to buy have to meet certain nutrition guidelines, and they usually come in cases. So if you've only got 10 kids eating breakfast every morning, you're still buying a case of it, and you may or may not go through all before it spoils.
How many students do we have doing free breakfast right now? I know I asked you this before, I'm sure I remember, but I don't.
Okay, I'm not sure that I have numbers for breakfast, because all my stuff I did probably waiting on lunch, since I was looking at.
That's all right, you don't have to have
Yeah,
exact numbers,
I
but
don't.
I guess my question is, without that, many of those kids would not
Wouldn't-
eat.
Yeah, so the rule of thumb at the business meetings that I go to for the regional business officials, they tend to say about 60 to 70% of your kids might actually still eat breakfast. So,
At the elementary school, they take the bus kids, right, and send them all downstairs for breakfast. They've been on a bus since
Right.
before 7, some of them, so there's a good chunk of them down in the commons.
If
I would say up here, we serve between 60 and 90 breakfasts.
Now, what's the average, I know we carry, like we write off unpaid lunches, correct? At the end of the year? Or does that carry over?
So it depends on if the student is still in the district or not. If they are going to, if they're still enrolled and they're coming back next year, we carry it over. The only ones we actually write off are the students who have left the district. Their families are no longer here. And this year, I want to say it was just a couple of grand that we wrote off. It wasn't a whole lot.
We also got donations to,
Yes.
to
Yep.
pay for some of those.
So we will try to pay off those write-off balances first before we actually write them off. If there's enough money in the, what we call it, the mutual fund.
Last thing I'll mention too about the prices is, does not include a la carte items as well. We as a district will set the prices based on what we're paying to purchase them, so that doesn't require board approval. But if we're gonna sell juices, for example, we're not making a whole lot of profit off it, but we will probably need to fluctuate some of those prices as well.
Are we at least breaking even with the milk? Like if we buy
Milk, we are breaking even, and we are making money on a la carte. So that's helping offset a little bit.
See, and that's where I was gonna go with that too. I mean, I know 10 cents isn't a big jump, maybe 20 cents for some people isn't a big jump. I mean, anything, a jump is huge, but is even 20 cents, like some districts are going up? I mean, you're still not gonna cover it.
I originally kind of wanted to go with 25 cents, but it's a big jump.
It is, I understand.
And so if we can just, we hadn't raised prices on meals for several years, so I think we just keep on this 10 cents.
Either way, if you raise it 25 cents, you're still not coming ahead, are you?
No, we still
So-
will not come ahead.
So we ran the numbers, for a student at the elementary, 10-cent increase would cost them $20 extra a year per child if they had lunch every day. For grades 7 through 12, it would cost them $2.40 extra.
And out of the kids that we have, how many actually eat the hot lunch or take lunch?
Those, we actually have some pretty good numbers on that.
I know it depends upon what's on the meal, the menu, but
Yeah, it does. Our total, September through May, we had 2 days in June, no, I don't have those counted, but our total paid meals for the year were just shy of 28,000 meals that we served. So we're serving a good number. Those are the paid. You add in the reduced and the free, we have just shy of 57,000 meals that were provided.
That's total?
Total.
For the whole
between
year.
both schools for the entire year.
Food?
It is a lot of food. So kudos to
That's
the
just
folks
lunch,
for
right? That's not including
That
breakfast?
does not include breakfast. I should say that's all three schools, because St. Mary's included in there.
Yep. That's all we have.
Alright. Building Department Administrator, Katie Horn.
I will turn over our ADA performance measures for 25 and congratulations tonight. Our key performance measures for ADA math. These are the same performance measures we've had for the past 5 years. Since our grant was supposed to run through this year, we are required to have the same performance measures all 5 years. So for reading and math, our goal is for 75% of students to demonstrate improvement in both areas. This year we did not fully reach the benchmark in reading or math. Although we didn't reach that, it does show that 2/3 and 3/4 of our kids are showing progress towards meeting that goal. Our 7th grade class is one that really struggled this year with our new kids coming in. We kind of ran the data that without the 7th grade class, we would have met both benchmarks. So that really tells us that that's a class we need to focus in on for next year. We kind of use the data to, so kind of make a mention so we can pull with them more specifically in reading, because their reading scores were tough to look at.
Is it just an adjustment to the new?
That's part of it, yep. Some of them have IEPs, some of them are very gray area students that have not necessarily been successful in school in general. So I'm actually really interested to follow those kids and see their scores throughout the next couple of years as they adjust to ABA. Our social emotional goal, I'm gonna have Avery go over after I'm done, because he's got the panorama survey data. For the ACT, our goal is always to have a composite score equal to or above the district's average. We met that goal this year. ABA had a 17.6 average and AHS had a 17.3 average. Last year, ABA's average was 17.5. Career readiness goal, so our goal is to have 90% of our students who do an internship. We have a career readiness rubric that we give to their employers at the beginning of their journey and their internship, in the middle and at the end. So our goal is to have 90% of our students increase on their ABA career readiness rubric. We met that goal, 100% of our students understanding growth on the rubric in different areas. Our network tracking goal, so our goal is always to have 90% of students increase their network tracker each year. We had 100% of students grow their interconnectivity map, so that it's really small, I'm sorry, but that's just an example of what the interconnectivity map looks like. So students throughout the year are able to meet with community members by either doing different service projects or whatever projects they're working on. And they put those people on their student network chart. So by the time they graduate, we hope that they have a really nice chart of people that they can connect to should they need to in the future. On the back, our professional development goal is 100% of educators will be trained in social justice and equity practices at least one instructional strategy, which all of us have done different trainings or read different books to fulfill that goal. Our board goal is that 100% of the board members will engage in at least one training or workshop by the end of the year, which was met. And our financial stability goal, requiring baseline data, which we acquired before this year, but we do know that having 35 students in ABA is kind of our sweet spot when it comes to our budget. And then this year we don't have the number yet, but we did come out at the end of the year with a surplus. And then I added at the end, this is actually, to me, more meaningful than a lot of other data, our end of the year student survey results. I just put kind of like the 3 of the main things on here. So the kids will take a survey at the end of the year with a ton of different questions, three different categories for the 3 different areas of English, science, and social studies that they have teachers, so we get really great feedback from the students on what they enjoy about the teachers' teaching styles, what they don't enjoy, kind of the rigor of the teaching in their projects. But the first one, sorry, it's really small, but what instructional technique is most important to ABA? They said project-based as the majority, and then individualized learning and community-based. What skill do you think is most important to be successful in ABA? Self-motivation was the #1 skill that kids chose. And then after that was responsibility, accountability, and collaboration. And then what word do you think most accurately describes ABA? The highest percentage was creative, and then flexible, empowering, welcoming, challenging, and supportive. So that's our performance measures for the year. I'm gonna have Avery go over the panorama survey results.
So, in terms of our performance measure for the panorama survey, our goal is to have 75% of student scores improved from the fall to spring survey. We didn't meet this goal. We had 50% of student scores improved from fall to spring. I think in part it was because our goal, our performance measure that we wrote, the topic areas that are covered in the survey are very vast. And so some topic areas may be based on like how the student is feeling that day. And their responses may be skewed to how they're feeling that day. And so I think going forward, Abigail Robinson and I have talked about kind of reworking that goal because it might not look like there was a lot of growth in the students' social and emotional well-being throughout the year, kind of saying that only 50% of students improved their fall to spring scores. But then when you look at the data, in topic areas such as like self-efficacy and supportive relationships, students, 76.7% of students either scores increased or stayed the same. And in the topic area of grit, 70% of students increased their score or stayed the same. So I think we chose a performance measure that doesn't really quite show the growth that our students are experiencing throughout the year. So what we kind of suggested and are thinking about for next year is at the beginning of the academic year, giving the students the fall survey, and then based on their responses, we're going to give them their responses to the survey, and they're going to pinpoint which topic area they scored the lowest in, and they're going to come up with goals for that topic area to improve their competency in that area, and then we'll have them work with their advisors and their small advisory groups, and it'll be kind of a year-long process where they'll work towards building their competency in a specific topic area, and then we'll use that data of whether they improved in the topic area that they chose to kind of give some more specific and I think more accurate depiction of growth. Any questions? Or questions just about the survey in general?
The data that you're looking at there, can you share that with us?
Yes,
Can
yeah,
you
I
make
definitely
copies?
can.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah.
So basically, you're looking at creating a model where they get to choose where they want to improve. Correct?
Yes,
Rather
yeah.
than having a blanket, this is what we want everybody to do.
Yes, yeah, like that's what it's been these past couple of years. It's been, we've taken our advisory time to go over these topic areas, and it's kind of like a universal experience for everybody. But moving forward, we want to make it more of an individual experience, where the student gets to look at their data and go, okay, where am I excelling? And where am I not excelling? And how can I build myself to be a more well-rounded individual? What goals can I create? And the nice thing is, with topic areas like grit, growth mindset, social awareness, self-efficacy, these goals can be not just school related, they can be sports related, they can be job work related, they can be family related, and they'll have their advisors there throughout the year to consistently be checking in with them, helping them make sure that they're making progress on that goal. So that's kind of the idea for the future.
Any other questions for Amy?
Mine are for Katie.
Good.
Do you have any year-over-year info on the reading goals? Like, is 64% or 72% better than last year's results, or do you have anything that we can compare it to?
I believe it was both 75 last year, we met at 75%. But I can pull that data and give it to you guys.
And then, I just found it interesting doing the quick math on the bottom right with what word do you think most accurately describes ABA? Only one of the 29 responses said challenging. So is that because that's the word they wanted to most closely relate to ABA, or is that because the other 28 don't feel as challenged?
It's a great question. They had to just pick one of the words on the side. So I think it's whatever word related to their experience the most. That's probably what they picked. I can give you the data from the other part of the survey. So it goes over each, like I said, each subject area, and then you can see the scores because it says like this was challenging for me, or this was the rigor of these 3 topic areas. I can give you that data too.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the committee reports. Charter School Committee meetings from May 21st and June 2nd. Jeremy.
Yeah, just, we've been breezing through, continuing on with the, going through the contract and just coming to an agreement on the language of the contract. I think we finished section 9, I believe it was, right, for 9? Yeah, and there's a couple areas that we had to put in a parking lot, where we need a little bit more discussion. Then we'll go through and look at, policies and whatnot, moving forward.
Questions? Policy and Practice Committee meeting June 4th. Chrissy.
So, you guys had the attachment of all policies we reviewed. The biggest thing we focused on was, Act 89 came out, regarding adopting formal policies, to govern appropriate communication between employees and students. So that was a lot of the revisions, and then, we will also be asking for an action tonight on the policy 5136 that we had approved last month. It needs to go into effect July 1, and I think we had said September 1, so we just need to redo that approval for the personal communication devices, with an action tonight. And I'm also representing Amy for the Finance Committee report, but I could not repeat what Amber just said. So everything that Amber talked about is the stuff that we need motions on. Getting the budget amendments to make 25-26 look more accurate, and then looking at the preliminary budget that goes into effect July 1, so we can keep the doors open. And then we also agreed on that food lunch cost increase, and I'm presenting that to the board and asking for your approval.
Questions for Chrissy? All right, we'll move into new business. So, I'll read to recommend to approve the budget amendments for 2025-2026 school year. And I'll read this. I need a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget amendment, reducing the budgets for funds 10, 27, 46, 49, and 50.
So moved.
Second.
Chrissy, seconded by Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Recommend to approve the preliminary budget for 2026-2027 school year. I need a motion to approve the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2026-2027 for funds 10, 21, 27, 39, 46, 49, 50, and 80, totaling $18,396,444.40.
Second.
Motion made by Jeremy, seconded by Chrissy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. I need a motion to set the food service meal pricing as recommended in the meal program price discounts for the 2026-2027 school year.
So moved.
Second.
By Shannon, seconded by Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. I need a motion to recommend to approve the CISA 6 contract for the 2026-2027 school year in the amount of $4,245.95.
So moved.
Second.
Mike, second by Chrissy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Need a motion to recommend to approve the contract with for the Huddle contract for the 2026-2027 school year in the amount of $10,000.
So moved.
Second.
Shannon, seconded by Jeremy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Need a motion to recommend to approve policies regarding Act 89, 0144.5, 1213, 3213, 4213, 7530.02, 7540.03, and 7544.
So moved.
Second.
Chrissy, seconded by Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. On the old business, I need a motion to recommend to approve Neola policy 5136, which is the personal communication devices for the students to go into effect July 1st, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Shannon, seconded by Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Do you have any requests for future agenda items? None? Review of dates for future meetings. July's regular board meeting is July 20th, 2026 at 6 p.m. That should be it for meetings.
One additional one that got scheduled today actually is gonna be a charter school committee meeting, July 1st at 5 o'clock. That's gonna be joint with the governance board, so Michael, if you and Jeremy, can I send you a text to check on that date?
Okay.
I am gone.
Oh, that's right.
On vacation, right, then.
I know, I didn't have it, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, and then July 20th, we'll have a strategic plan, presentation on that, and looking for approval for that.
Nothing more, we would like to go into executive session under Wisconsin statute 19.85 1C for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data on any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction to exercise responsibility. I need a roll call vote. Mike?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Me, yes. Chrissy?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
This meeting adjourned 7:13.